Hey everybody, and welcome to this screencast that is part 2 of the cosine law. So in class today we looked at developing two situations where the cosine law could be used. So the one you see on the left is called SSS. So that means side, angle, side. So you can see that when you have a given side, that there is an angle that is contained by the two sides. So side, angle, side. And what that does is it allows you to solve for the side that is across from the given angle. Okay, in this case, you can see it here, labeled X. On the other hand, if you don't have any information other than the side lengths, so you can see them right here, that's referred to as side, side, side. And you can find any particular angle measurement using side, side, side. As far as a formula is concerned, okay, so the base formula for the cosine law looks very much like the Pythagorean theorem. At least that part does. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. But there is an additional piece that we have to tack onto this formula in order to make it work for non-right triangles. So we subtract off a particular quantity, and that's 2 multiplied by A multiplied by B, and that's also multiplied by the cosine of angle C. And that's referred to as the cosine law. So we've already seen a case of SAS being applied in the first video. Let's have a look at side, side, side. So check this out. So we're going to solve for angle B. Right? So that's our task, because we really would like to find out what this is equal to here. So in order to do that, we need to use the cosine law relationship, because this is a case of side, side, side. So I'm going to start by writing it down as such. Okay? So what I'm going to do is, because it's angle B that we're after, I'm actually going to start the formula with B squared equals A squared plus C squared, okay, minus 2 multiplied by A multiplied by C, and then multiplied by the cosine of angle B in this case. Okay. So take a look at how things are structured when you're setting up the formula. Okay. So B, or side B, what you're looking for is opposite to angle B. Whereas beforehand, when we were looking at the formula in terms of C, you can see how C is on each end. So small c is the side length on the left, and then uppercase C is the angle on the right-hand side. So you can pattern your way through based on any lettering system you happen to have for your triangles. So let's move forward and solve this thing. So let's substitute the given information. So we know that 18 is B, so let's throw that in there. And we have all the other values. A is 22, C is 12, and then we'll continue substituting the values in. Okay. So you're welcome to use a series of brackets to indicate multiplication, but I'm going to use a multiplication symbol. And now that I'm running out of room, I'm just going to drop down to the next line and finish off with multiplying by the cosine of B. Okay. So let's take a moment to process and calculate some of these values. So this 18 to the power of 2, okay, 18 squared. If you were to calculate that, I believe it comes out to 324. Okay, so definitely double check that value and make sure I've got that all right. 22 squared, so 22 to the power of 2, I believe is 484. So definitely double check that. 12 squared is 144. And I've got a feeling that I am a bit off on the 22 squared. I'm just going to check this out. I don't want to go any further without doing that. So let's square 22. Okay, fair enough. I'm okay. And then we'll subtract off the amount that's in the bracket. So being that I'm running out of space, I think what I'm going to do is just sort of try to revise this a little bit. That's better. All right. Okay, so that bracket, let's deal with that. So 2 by 22 by 12. So let's check that out and see what we can get there. So using our calculator.
Mr. Bergeron.
528.
Call the office. Mr. Bergeron.
So 528 multiplied by the cosine of b. All right, so now here's what I need you to do. Always follow BEDMAS, right? So when you're trying to solve an equation, you have to apply an order of operation. So I want to show you something that happens an awful lot. And I'd ask that you do not do this in your own work, okay? So I'm just going to copy this over and bring it into a new page. And I think it's really important that you do see this. So sometimes what I'll see is the following. Let's see, it doesn't want to deselect, so that's kind of, there we go, not a pleasant feature. So here's what I'll see some of the time, is I'll notice that sometimes I might get people who subtract 144 from the 528, okay? So I might end up with someone taking these two values and subtracting them. So we'll take these two, and we'll subtract that, and they'll come up with a particular answer. So I'm going to go through with that. I'm actually going to run through and subtract those values just so we have it in front of us. So that's minus 384. So I will see that on occasion, and then finish with the cosine of b. Okay? So I'm here to tell you that that does not work. Can't do that. I'll also see this once in a while. So what I'll see is an individual combine these two values first, which is fine, okay? So we'll notice that sometimes someone will do this. So a little noise in the background. Just doing a screencast, Mr. Kyogan. So let's see, that's 484 add 144, 628. Well, just doing a little math here, just recording the video. Yeah. No problem. No problem. Sometimes we get announcements that come in on PA, but that's we're pretty resilient. So what will happen is I'll see this. So I'll see students subtract 628 and the 528 to make 100, and then they'll multiply by the cosine of b. That, again, that doesn't work. Okay. Reason why is that it's not a viable strategy for solving equations. So typically when you solve an equation, finding the unknown, you're working your way through BEDMAS in sort of a reverse orientation, if you will. So the way you really do need to accomplish it, okay, is by doing the following. So let's head back to the space where we are solving this thing. So what I would ask you to do is the following. So yes, please combine these two values here, 484 and 144, to make 628. But I would ask that you do leave the minus 528 times cos b. I'm just going to take the bracket off at this point in time, okay? And dividing up our page, what we'll do first is we will take the 628, okay? And we're going to cancel that from the right-hand side of the equation. So we're going to subtract it from both sides of the equation. So we're really adding on negative 628 to 324. And when we do that, we end up getting negative 304. Okay. 628 on the right is no longer there as we cleared that out. And we're left with minus 528 cosine of b. Now in between that is a multiplication. So we are multiplying right here between the 528 and the cosine of b. Last but not least, you can appreciate that we have way too many cosine b's. In fact, we have 528 of them and minus 528. So to isolate the cosine of b, we'll have to divide both sides by the minus of 528. So that will allow for us to cancel or put 528 over 528 into lowest terms. That's 1 over 1. So we've effectively isolated the cosine of b. So I'm just going to rewrite that to tidy it up. One thing I will do is on this side, notice that we do have a double negative. So when you divide a negative by a negative, you end up with a positive response or a result. So we're almost there. To get the cosine of b into a form where we have solved for the angle, or that is just angle b, we're going to take the inverse cosine of that. So that's 304 over 528 as a fraction, and we will take the inverse to that. So with your calculator, we'll divide 304 by 528, and it equals for now, for the repeating decimal. And I'm going to take the inverse. So I'm going to press shift, and I'm going to find the inverse of cosine, and it reports 54.84. So approximately, we can see that approximately angle B is about 55 degrees. Okay? And that's specifically how you use cosine law relationship when you have a triple S context or side. So definitely there's a little bit of algebraic gymnastics involved in solving the equation. Okay? But all in all, it really boils down to a couple of things. So one is determine if it's a sine law scenario. So go back and figure out, do I see either of these scenarios being presented in my problem? If not, sine law. If yes, then decide if it's SAS or triple S, and then use the formula accordingly.